This is my D&D 1500 Pro Reef. Today I'm going to do a video about my sump, which I haven't done for quite some time, especially on this tank. There seems to be a lot of interest in sumps and configurations and how people have set them up and equipment they use, etc. So I thought, well, maybe it's time I did one and an update on the sump on this D&D 1500 Pro Reef. So the thing to do then is to open the cabinet doors, have a look inside and see if I can give you a rundown. Just before I do, there's a interesting little acrylic shelves that Duke houses test kits that I've found on, I think it was Amazon or was it eBay, one or the other. Anyway, so here we go. You can't really see very well, but at the back there are 3 pipes coming down into the sump. I'll just move back at that to get a better view of the whole overall sump. Well, that's the sump full on. As I say, 3 pipes from the back. You've got the return sump feed or tank drain on the left hand side with a valve on it. The middle one, you can see very well, that is in fact the emergency drain, and the end of it with a bit of salt creep on it is the emergency drain. Need to clean that up actually. Moving on down, that comes into a back compartment, overflows into the first compartment which houses my skimmer. So that's a Reef Octopus 150S, rated up to around 8,000 litres. Sorry, 800 litres. Probably the best value for money skimmer I've ever had actually. I've had quite a few in my 40 years reef keeping. They retail for somewhere in the region of £279. People often ask me how much things cost, so I'll include prices as I go along, but I bought that second hand. Actually I didn't, it's kind of a lie. I actually swapped the 110, a smaller version, second hand for this brand new one. Somebody bought this brand new one, couldn't fit it in the sump very well, so offered to do a straight swap, so obviously I jumped on it. Above it, sitting on top of the cup, is a neck cleaner. Again, it's a Reef Octopus. That's on a timer and it runs 4 times in 24 hours. Runs for a minute, so it does a few revolutions to clean the neck. At the moment you can see it's switched off, and the reason it's switched off, I only run that at night at the moment. Been experimenting with it to see how we go, just running it during the night time when pH tends to drop, and that gives it a bit of a boost during the night time. And you can see a pipe there leaning up, that's going up and bringing air from well above the tank. That's another little experiment to see if it'll drag less CO2 in when it's switched on. So I think that's enough on the Reef Octopus. As I say, the neck cleaner is about £200, but again I bought that for, I think it was less than half price second hand, and it's a good little item. So moving on into the next chamber, we've got an Ultra Reef UFF-003 reactor, in which you have a small amount of rower that's running that. Next to that there is a thermometer that I just have in the sump. Now that's run by a little new jet pump, which does a good job of fluidizing just the right amount. That's in fact rated at it's an NJ400 pump in there, and they just cost 17 quid and do a good job. Next to that, difficult to see, we have 2 MaxJets Nanotech bio blocks, and They're mounted on a DIY stand, keep them off the bottom. They cost you somewhere in the region of £25, I believe. I bought them second hand and cleaned them up, but stand cost me next to nothing to make. So then we come along to one of my favourite pieces of kit. That is Turbo Aquatics L3 Rev 3, I believe. I'm not 100% certain about that, but I think it's an L3 Rev 3. And again on a DIY cradle type stand, which is fitted across the sump. If you can see it there. And that is fed from its own dedicated pump. It's a 3,500 Jerboa pump. And difficult to see because there are so many sibyllid worms and incrustations on the sump. Makes it difficult to see the pump, but I can show you the pump is down there somewhere. That's being fed up here, and you can see at the back there, that's corrugated pipe. That's emergency overflow. That is a modification of mine because the original one was very big, but that very rarely comes into play. I have to empty that or clean it once a week. Currently the lights are off because once my tank lights have been on for a while, and that but that's currently on something like 16 hours a day, I think it is, 16 hours a day on a timer. The rest of the time it's off. So during the daytime when the pH is going up, the algae's getting the rest from the light. Let's just put the lid back on there. And that's rated as something like 4 feeds a day, and that's currently around about what the tank gets. I feed heavy, a broadcast feed, so there's quite a lot going in there, hence why we have the little bit of roller running as well. That does a brilliant job of keeping the nitrates down. In fact, recently I've been dosing nitrates because it's so efficient, so I might have to turn it, scrub it down a little bit more. So from there we've got a Tunzi osmolator, which feeds from a small pump at the back, Tunzi pump. Now this is a little bit to explain. I've got a white piece, so I've got one section going into the Aquamedic Cockwazza stirrer, and another one going directly into the sump. Well, what I do there at night time, I turn the tap on to run the auto top up through the Cockwazza stirrer, and in the daytime I run it from the reservoir directly into the sump. That helps with pH enormously, helps keep the pH up at night, and it keeps the pH pretty stable. So it's usually around about 8.2, 8.3 in the morning, and it only, when it turns off, it only drops maybe 0.1, possibly 0.2 occasionally, but it keeps it pretty stable over 24 hours. Unfortunately, I don't believe the Aquamedic one is available for sale anymore. Certainly not seeing any being advertised for sale. Again, I bought that second hand, so if you do see one, they're a lot cheaper than the Deltec, and yet basically I don't really see a big difference in them. If anything, the Aquamedic one is a lot cheaper and seems just as well. I've had about the Deltec, it could be in Deltec one in the past, but I don't see any real big difference in performance between them. No difference at all really. Just having a little look at the back. You can see in there, that's my oxidator. People who know me will know I'm a big believer in oxidators. I do run the Facebook oxidator user group. If anybody's interested in how they work, want to know more information, you might want to pop along to Facebook if you're on Facebook, and join up, and you can find all about them there. You should also be able to see there are two, with the Tunzi osmolator, two separate switches. Now I've split the switches because when the skimmer turns on and off, the level does drop or rise in the sump, which if we were both together would set the alarm off. It's not a great deal, it's probably only a litre or so, maybe 2 litres if that difference, but it's enough to set the alarm off. So I bought another Tunzi float holder, if you like, so I'll split them, and you can see there, so I can keep the tolerances and stop the alarm going off a lot cleaner between the levels. I think that's about the lot. You can just see controllers there for the various pumps. I've got MP40s and the Jabot Jaya on there. Just the usual run-of-the-mill type of controllers many people are familiar with. I'll come back a bit more. You can see more of the sump. The brush is on the side, by the way, in there, after cleaning the skimmer cup, which I do usually about once a week. Come back, so everything fits pretty neatly in there, and I hope that explains just about everything you need to know. Return pump, I don't think I mentioned, but the return pump is the Jabot 900, getting stuck in the back there, full of crud of some sort of another, as they do. Probably due for a clean. Not cleaned it since I put it on, so it could probably do with a good clean. Apart from that, that's about the lot you need to know. But if there is any questions, just drop me a line on the underneath, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. I hope you found that informative. Last shot at the tank before we go, and there you go. A little bit of cider on the sand, which is taking its time going, but it's going slowly. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Bye.